Hello, happy Friday, everybody. Day 5 of the FeelFab 3R Protocol mini course. Hello, welcome everybody. I'm just going to wait a minute and see if we have some people on the line here. So give everybody a chance to settle in. Super excited. It's been a great week for me. I've so enjoyed sharing everything. Hey there, funny girl. Nice to have you here tonight. It's been very exciting for me to share my philosophies, my protocol with you, and really just some. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about a little more fun topic as far as just some thoughts, ideas for little tips and tricks that sometimes work for people. And I say it that way. It's not a real trick, so to speak. But anyways, we want to have fun with it. It's something that sometimes works for a lot of people. And so I just want to go through a few things like that, get you thinking in some different directions. And one of the things I truly believe is that if you want to eventually build yourself a diet program, I even hate that word, but just a lifestyle program, choosing foods and things that are going to contribute to your health. And if you do that, part of it is just being curious, trying out different things, seeing if that's something that works for you or not. So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about tonight. So we're on the 5th day. We've gone through, and I'll keep this part brief because usually I go through everything that we've gone through over the week, but the videos are live here in the group. So I want, you can go back and watch them and just, at your own pace, if that's what you need to do. So that's something that you can do. So I'm not going to cover everything. We did go through the 3 R's of the relax, release, and replenish. So that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. And then last night, we were talking about the different diet trends that are out there. And I called them busting the confusion because they all, for the most part, they all had something to contribute that could be used. But it's how you use them and how you tweak them that's really going to make all the difference. So hopefully you got a lot out of that. And as I've been mentioning, if you have questions, you can write them in the Facebook, of course. You can email me, which is info@feelfabulousnutrition.com. Or, I can see some questions come up in the scroll and I can always answer those. But tomorrow at 10 a.m., there'll be a brief question and answer. So for any questions that you haven't asked or you haven't put in the chat or anything, I'll be going through some of those and maybe just a few common questions that kind of come up as well. So looking forward to seeing that tomorrow. Unless for some reason I get bombarded with questions tonight, I will try to keep that fairly brief because it is Saturday morning. We all usually have busy days on Saturdays, and I don't want to make that a long session, but I do want to answer questions that may have come up during this week as well. So, anyway, so tonight I'm going to be talking about, I'm calling it creating breakthroughs. Now, it's kind of a little push the needle. We do have to experiment with them, but I'll kind of go through some that maybe are not as, you haven't really thought about them before. And it might be something that you say, wow, I've never tried that. I would love to try that, see how it works with me and my body. Okay, makes sense? So the first one that I'm going to talk about is one that is probably the most, maybe, that you probably have heard of it. Okay. Some of the other ones, maybe not so much, and that is apple cider vinegar. So, I've used apple cider vinegar myself, and it's something that you really can't, it can help in blood sugar regulation. You most of the time, the way to use it, and what I liked about it is that it tended to help me with cravings. And when you're first doing a transition from maybe having more of a junky diet, not necessarily all junk food, but lesser quality food, and you've been eating that for quite a while, or many, many years or decades, however that might be, that when you're transitioning into, as we talked about last night, maybe a 3 meal a day eating plan, much higher quality foods, your body is, and especially when you're starting to lower some of the sugars, your body is still craving those things. And I found that apple cider vinegar really can help with those cravings. And it's also been known to have all sorts of wonderful effects. It helps detoxify your liver. It can help purifying your blood and helping like cleansing lymph nodes, all sorts of things like that. So there's been a lot of documentation on using apple cider vinegar. So to me, one of the best ways to really use that is to have up to a tablespoon, but usually I'm just a couple of teaspoons, actually, a little less than a tablespoon, that I would use in warm water. Little variety on that is you can use lemon water with it. So you could put squeezed lemon with the apple cider vinegar. Lemon, of course, has a lot of vitamins, potassium, magnesium, things like that. It helps in digestion. So some people combine them. I've done it both ways. Like I've had lemon waters, I've had, and I've done apple cider vinegar by itself. I've also done apple cider vinegar with olive oil. And that one kind of helps clean you out a little bit too. But I find that if you have that before a meal, you really want to try to do that on an empty or fairly empty stomach. It's not something you would do right after. It's not a dessert type of thing. It's a pre-meal. So everybody uses it different ways. The people that are just love apple cider vinegar, every single meal they have a little bit. They have maybe a teaspoon, and they'll do that 3 times a day before meals. I tend to use it a little differently. I will mostly have it in the morning, and I'll have it, like a tablespoon of it with the water and everything before I have anything else. And that's it for the day. I don't tend to have it multiple times. There's not a right or wrong way. Well, I should say this. A wrong way would be thinking a little is great, so a lot's going to be better. I would not start drinking this apple cider vinegar. Absolutely never have it plain. Just some people shot it plain. I do not recommend that. I've read some reports that people can burn their esophagus and things like that. I don't know that firsthand. I've never had it plain, but I would not recommend it. So I would say that you want to have it in the morning time. And okay, so great, funny girl, you've used it before bed. I think that if you're doing it like a tea before bed can be okay as well. And some people find that if they're a snacker in the evening, that having it in the evening can also kind of help with those cravings and break up the pattern of having a lot of food at nighttime. So that's perfect, funny girl. I appreciate that. You like it before bedtime. That would be fine as well. The only thing that I would caution at bedtime is that for some people, if they have it like immediately and then lie down, for some people that could cause a little bit of an upset. So I would say that if you're going to do it before bedtime, I would probably do it maybe, not immediately, maybe at least like a half an hour before you actually go to bed and lie down. Personally, I haven't had that experience. I'm telling you from the research and the other nutritionists that I study and follow, some of them have mentioned that that could be a little bit of an issue. But apple cider vinegar, I would highly recommend that you try it, see if it does help with cravings. And if you have a time, maybe even it depends on your schedule and what it looks like, but it does, for me, it really helped with those cravings when I was going through that transition period. And it has so many benefits for you. It's actually, even though apple cider vinegar itself isn't alkaline, the effect on your body is actually alkalizing. So that is another wonderful thing. And I would totally recommend that you give it a try. And if you do put a little lemon in it, and you could put a little bit of honey in it as well. Now, again, it's all proportion. You're not having a little teaspoon or two of apple cider vinegar and then having 3 tablespoons of honey in there, okay? But some people like a little bit of honey. That's fine. I wouldn't go over a teaspoon. I'd probably keep it pretty low on there, but you could do that. So you can make yourself a little concoction there. Tiny bit of honey, raw honey, make it raw honey. You want your apple cider vinegar to be with the mother. Okay. That's the best one. It hasn't been filtered. You want all that good fermentation and everything in that apple cider vinegar. That's what's really going to give it the punch. So that's one of my tips and tricks that I would say, go for it, try it. Kind of the same vein would be lemon juice. For me, the apple cider vinegar was a little bit better. I felt like I had a little more results that I could feel with it. The lemon water, though, is detoxifying. Some people swear by it. They swear by it. Wake up in the morning. It is a known to be able to help with really cleansing you and detoxifying. Hey there, Kathy. Thanks for coming on tonight. Appreciate it. We're just talking about apple cider vinegar, how wonderful that is. We're doing creating breakthroughs tonight. So one of the things that I found, just to kind of say that again, is to try apple cider vinegar. And it tends to, not only does it do a lot of good things for helping our blood sugar levels and things like that, but it also, if you're doing a transitional type of diet where really you're coming off a lot of sugars, I found for me, it really helped with cravings. So we were just talking about that part as far as the apple cider vinegar. And then lemon juice. Some people really believe that having lemon juice, especially first thing in the morning, really helps them with cleansing their liver. And obviously the cleaner, and we want our livers to be functioning as high level as possible. That helps in everything. So it's highly recommended. Even a liver doctor that I read a lot of information from highly recommends having lemon water as well. So I do a combo. I combine both, the lemon water with the apple cider, tiny bit of honey. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on my mood. And it doesn't need to be a lot, but give it a try. These are all experimental type of things. See if you like it, if it works for you, if it helps you, then definitely go ahead and do it. But I would highly recommend that. The second thing that I want to talk about that can have some breakthroughs is having a lot more fermented foods. So things like sauerkraut, miso is wonderful to have as well. Of course, there's always yogurts. For me, yogurt is a little bit tricky in the sense that really finding that high quality yogurt, you want a full fat. If it's if it's cow milk type yogurt, then you want to make sure that it's grass fed. I personally have not tried the goat or oh, my brain here, doing goat or other type of yogurt, but yogurt can be there. But sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha, miso, you can get fermented pickles, but that fermented food is fantastic for you to have. In Sprouts, I don't know if there's Sprout markets where you're all at, but there are some sauerkrauts that are made with beets. Some can be made with different like caraway seeds in them and things like that. So there's a huge variety. But one of the doctors nutritionist doctors that I've done some studying with, she has it daily. So she's such a huge fan of that and what it can help with your body. Again, it helps with some of that sugar regulation. Many people who are, when we're older, we're seasoned, and if we are having some weight that we would like to drop, this fermented food can be another game changer to add that into your diet. Now, I'm not a everyday kind of gal on this, but I try really hard to have at least 3 days a week out of the week to have some sort of a fermented food. For me, I love sauerkraut, so I will actually take sauerkraut and put it in my salad. So it can be that simple. You could be much more creative and make all sorts of meals and things with the sauerkraut as well. But there are the other ones that you can try. Miso, if you do, again, get it organic, miso, but there is one that comes in a package and it's organic. You just add water and it's really delicious to drink. And that would be something else that you could add that. Oh, good. You love kraut too. I'm not the only crazy one here loving the kraut, but we're gonna skip the hot dogs with it though, right? So anyways, that's like another, it's another, like I call them tricks. They're not tricks, but they're just something that really can benefit you. And I had talked a little bit, if our microbiome is really, our gut microbiome is in great shape, then that affects everything in our bodies. And these couple of things we're talking about, they really do help with your gut microbiome. And it can only benefit you. It can only benefit you. Now, how much you notice a difference is always individualized. I understand that. Not everyone's going to have the same kind of feelings, but that's really worked for me. So another suggestion, a few times a week, or, you can do it daily. I just don't tend to do it daily, but I would say minimum 3 meals a week, which is not really that much since you have, figuring lunch and dinners out of all of that. But if you can put that in there, that is another wonderful thing to add. So that was my number 2. Apple cider vinegar is 1, fermented foods was 2. Okay. My third one is to experiment for maybe 2 weeks, possibly 3, but I'm going to let you go with 2 to try to go gluten-free and see how you feel when you do that. Now, the reason I'm saying that, and obviously there are people that they're so gluten sensitive, they have celiac disease and things like that. There's real huge issues. For most of us, it's not necessarily that, but what the gluten proteins, and especially the way it's almost now super gluten, the way that gluten has been modified over the years, you're not really eating what people were eating, the same gluten that people were having in the 1920s. Okay, it's a super gluten, but not in a good way, in a negative way. So those proteins really tend to wreak havoc with our immune systems. And again, it's not, if you're not, if you don't have a huge sensitivity, you may not say, well, I don't think it's a big deal for me. But if you go free from it for 2 weeks, see if you really start to feel less aches and pains, especially if you have any sort of joint type issues and things like that. See if that can be a needle mover for some people, is to let that go. I never personally thought that I had any issue at all with any sort of gluten things, but in my own experimentation and going free, I always feel better when I'm having 0 to none gluten. I can have it, but I feel better when I don't have it. So I try to limit the gluten. So the only thing that I would say with going gluten-free is some people go gluten-free, then they run and buy tons of rice crackers and all these other type of things to kind of make up for their bread that they're missing and things like that. What I would suggest in the experimental, this 2-week, and I'm saying 2 weeks because gluten isn't, you may not really be able to evaluate in 2 or 3 days. So if you go ahead and do that for 2 weeks, you'll really be able to, I believe, know if there was a big difference or not. I can't fathom that you're not going to feel better. You may miss your gluten, your bread, especially if you're a big bread eater. But if we're here for high health and vitality in the second half of our lives, try going that. And then after that time, also by going gluten-free, you tend to if your gut has any sort of maybe a leaky gut or things going on in there, the combination, if you're adding in like the fermented foods and you're giving your digestive system a break from gluten, the combination of those can help heal and rebalance your gut biome. So it has more effects, even if you don't feel that you have a big sense of a difference. But health-wise, it would be very beneficial. And then after that, of course, if you feel better, you notice a difference, most people do, then it's up to you how often you would have that. I'm not saying never to have a piece of bread ever again in your life. There are people, nutritionists, that absolutely will say gluten is a absolute no, don't ever have it. Live the rest of your life. Don't have anything with gluten. I'm not strict like that. I believe that there is going to be a time and a place that you're going to enjoy having your breads or things that have gluten in them, and have them, enjoy them. I would just limit how often you're doing that. And I think that you will again, it can be a needle mover if you're a little bit stuck and just feeling like you're not getting where you want to go, maybe, at a pace that you want to move it up. You want to move to the next level. So I would try going gluten-free. So I never get any yay on that one. So anyways, but that's okay. I'm here delivering the message. Things that will definitely work for you. So anyways, don't shoot the messenger here. So, okay. Lots of good quality gluten-free breads, pastas. Yes. There are lots of good quality ones. It's like anything. If you're, what I would do though is not be so focused. There's so many higher quality foods. Like we don't want to be loading up on gluten-free pasta every single night and we're having tiny bits of vegetables and things like that. There's so many other foods that you should be experiencing and having in your diet. I just get concerned that some people swing from one side to the other side. So that's my concern. But yes, there are a lot of good gluten-free things available now. But I wouldn't go and have a loaf of gluten-free bread. That makes sense. So anyways, okay, so that's number 3. So apple cider vinegar, fermented foods, and then we had going gluten-free. And like I said, just experiment. If you say, hey, listen, no difference in my life, no difference in my body, isn't making a difference for me, then okay, I respect that. But I would try it and see if you feel any different going gluten-free just for a couple weeks. Check it out, see how it works. Okay, number 4. Where is my number 4? Number 4. Kind of a new kid on the block as far as what I'm saying that as far as popularity, and that would be paying attention to polyphenols. They've been getting a little bit more buzz lately. There are a lot of nutritionists really talking about them and suggesting, but they are wonderful. They fight free radicals. We had talked one of the other nights about all the toxins in our foods and making sure that we pay a little more attention to having polyphenols in our diet pretty consistently. It really can be another thing that benefits because they're so full of good antioxidants and help you to such a high level. They actually help prevent damage to cells, that paying attention to them and adding them to your diet can really make up for some maybe nutrients that you're not getting if you don't include them. Hope that makes sense. So what are some of the polyphenols? Of course, there are some that you can buy, you can get them in supplements, but I think that you should try to just incorporate them in food. So we're looking at things like blackberries, blueberries. I know, Kathy, you love the blueberries. So the blueberries, strawberries, plums, apples, Granny Smiths are really, I would suggest Granny Smiths, especially if you're trying to keep your sugars. If sugar is part of an issue, then, or any sort of pre-diabetics or things, I would go with the Granny Smiths on those. But plums, pomegranates, and then artichokes, spinach have polyphenols in them. Red onions, walnuts, hazelnuts, pecans, and then you've got your teas. Black tea does. I love Earl Grey teas, and red wine, of course, does as well. Even coffee. And some dark chocolate, some olive oil. So lots of great foods. But to me, the ones that are kind of the needle movers in the sense of really feeling different would be those blackberries, blueberries, strawberries. If you don't, many people add those type of berries to like a protein shake, things like that. That's a great way to really get a nice dose of those. But polyphenols are super, kind of in that category of superfoods. And I would try to have those again a few times a week. Some people do have them every single day in one way or another. There's so many fantastic recipes that, when I ever have right now I'm on the road. Some of you wouldn't know that. So I don't really have a full kitchen. So I don't tend to do some of the recipes that other people may try, but you can make, with coconut milk and like frozen blueberries and things, kind of make like an ice creamy kind of dessert and things like that. So a lot of things that you can do with that, but I would definitely add the polyphenols, incorporate that into your diet and see if that will give you a little boost of energy, and it's really helping your body heal and get healthy. So that would be my number 4. Okay, my number 5 is movement. And I talked about movement before, as far as, just trying to do, it can be a needle mover. But what I'm trying to say on this is it's more movement in the sense of getting your lymph system. We want to try to get things moving in our body and our lymph system. Sorry, can't say that tonight. And if you do any sort of movement, dance is wonderful, and you don't have to go to a formal dance. You can just turn on some music at home and dance around. But obviously you can do, there's other things depending on the shape that you're in. I mean, you can do jumping jacks and jump roping and things like that. Anything that kind of gets everything flowing within your body is wonderful to do. So I really highly recommend movement of some sort. Now, it can be walking and things as well, but the needle mover to me is if you're doing a little more than just a casual walk, where you're doing maybe some sort of an arm thing. You're really getting different parts of your body moving. And there's lots of videos and things online that can show you some different, like 10-minute type of exercises, but that it isn't so much. A lot of people think that nutritionists and coaches will recommend movement and exercise to burn calories. That's not what this is about. The moving the needle is because you're helping your body move its internal system by your movement, getting your blood flowing, getting the oxygen inside and flowing through your body. And that is what's moving the needle. It's not that you're burning a certain amount of calories through this. So if someone maybe isn't in a position to do a lot of exercising, or because of maybe you have a lot of weight, extra weight, that it kind of prohibits you from that, don't worry about that. That the point isn't to burn calories here. The point is to get yourself. So if you're sitting, you can start to sway, move your arms, do exercises in sitting. You can actually even look that up online, sitting exercises and anything that will help that movement. And that can be a needle. That can be a little tip, a trick to help move things along. And then the last one that I'm going to say, when I learned about this, I was really kind of surprised, but it does make sense. And that is infrared saunas. Now, you can do regular saunas as well, but it the mentor that I had that in one of my certificates really talked about infrared saunas so much in saying that especially for people that their bodies have kind of been stagnant for a while. They really just haven't been able to move. Maybe physically there's a situation they're uncomfortable moving a lot. Having an infrared sauna, having that your body have that heat and start to even start to sweat and have that come through, it can move the needle for people. So you can go into a regular sauna. There's sometimes though people have an issue with the regular saunas because of the temperature, because a regular sauna is heating the air around. It obviously gets very hot. It's usually like 150, 180. The infrared sauna is actually heating your body. And so the sauna itself, the heat is a lower level. And so it's like 120 to maybe 140. So sometimes people need help in getting their body to really perspire and they can't do the massive movements and things. And this again is more like with your lymphatic system that we want to kind of get that going, and doing an infrared sauna is a way to help that, and it can move the needle. So when we've accumulated a lot of fat and toxins, our body sometimes is resistant to letting those go. And infrared saunas have been very proven to be able to move that. Now, when I first learned about it, I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't have a home with an infrared sauna. So what does anybody do when they have questions? They Google it, right? So I found out that where I was living, there were all sorts of spas that you can go to, just like you can go get a massage. Oh, I should have put massage in there too. That's not a bad thing to do to help as well. But you can actually go and use a infrared sauna in a lot of spas, and it was fairly reasonable. I think it was, maybe like $30, because you only need like 20 minutes or so, maybe half an hour. You don't need to do a 45-minute or an hour session. So it can be pretty affordable to do that. But again, if you feel like I'm stuck, like my body is just, even though I'm eating well, I'm trying to do things, I feel like my body is just resisting to release all of this energy that's stored, and I would like for it to release. So try the infrared sauna. That can be a little more of a luxury for you maybe, and say just, I'm going to pamper myself. I'm going to go in infrared sauna maybe once a week and enjoy that. Do that for a little bit and see if it makes a difference. So those are my tips and tricks for tonight. I hope that was enjoyable. Again, they're just ways, there's something to experiment. Be curious about them and try it. See if that helps. I know for me, for sure, the apple cider vinegar, the fermented foods, and movement, and going gluten, those ones for positive, I can tell you personally that I can feel a huge difference. I think the polyphenols, adding those more frequently, I know that they're doing good things in my body. I don't notice it as much as an outside measurement, but I know that they're doing good things, and I very rarely, I can't even remember the last time I was sick or had a cold or anything. And of course, when you put that out there, then now it's going to happen. But but I think it's because I'm eating such higher quality foods that these things do help. So those are my tips for tonight. I know it's a Friday night. I so appreciate you being here and, sticking with me through this. I hope it's been helpful. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I am going to do that short question and answer. And then on Monday night, I'm just going to kind of do a wrap up of everything. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 3R protocol program that is a 9-week program, hybrid program that I do offer. And I am going to have, for anybody who has watched through this Facebook Live mini course, I will go ahead and offer some special pricing for that program. So if you're here, you know it's your time, you want to move forward, you know that you're committed to getting healthy, why not come into a group scenario where you're going to get support? Because a lot of times we really do want to make changes, but making changes there is hard. It's hard if you're doing it all by yourself. Our world is not set up to support us. We can't walk into very many restaurants and have a farm, vegetable type of a menu that we'll say, oh my gosh, look at all these wonderful choices I have. No, we don't have that. If we're on the run and we need to just grab something quickly, we can't walk into a fast food place and get a wonderful, fresh, organic salad and quickly. We have to search these things out. So when we're with a group of women that we're all looking to, have the best health that we can have, it makes it so much easier to stick with it. You're not alone. And I would love to have you in that program and join the rest of us. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that on Monday night before we kind of wrap up with everything. And like I said, for your time and efforts, anybody who's even listened to the live later on, just mention that you heard the live, you watched the live, you're interested in that, and I would still honor special pricing even though you haven't been able to be on with me during the lives. So have a great Friday night. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., like I said, I'll be going through some questions, answers. I'm going to try to keep that to probably only about 20 minutes because it is a Saturday. I respect people's times. I know it's a tough day to necessarily jump on, but if you can, it'd be great. I'd love to have you. And if you can think of any questions that you have tonight, if you could send them ahead of time, that will also be able to guide me on answering those questions quickly, and then we can get on with our days tomorrow. So look forward to talking to you then. Thanks so much. Have a great night.